Good morning, folks, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 25th of October. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barrie. Joshua, how are we doing?
Yeah, good, Derek. Busy day yesterday, obviously, but a big win for Rangers, and I think looking back at it, it was a really convincing win. More comfortable than it felt in the stadium. St Mirren got a couple of corners in injury time, but it was a good performance. I enjoyed watching it, and looking forward to talking about some of the big moments from it.
Absolutely. Folks, if you're watching us on YouTube, as ever, just a reminder just to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a video that we put out, and also to take advantage of our fantastic offer on just now. It's just £1 a month for the first 2 months to the Rangers Review website, rangersreview.co.uk, to support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Okay, plenty of talking points, as Joshua mentioned. Rangers coming from behind yesterday to defeat St Mirren by 2-1. Roofe with a penalty, and Alfredo Morelos joining the 100 club. It was a lackluster start, to say the least, Joshua, but they managed to sort of find their gears and levels and done enough to get the victory.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at that's what was the colour piece was on yesterday, and what I'm looking at a little bit this morning is how St Mirren started the game so successfully. And I think Rangers, when you don't have pace in the front three, you need to rely on other things getting you up the pitch. And St Mirren were really aggressive, went man for man on Stephen Davis and the two centre-backs, and basically said, okay, you've got to go long. And I think that's a completely different opening 20 minutes if you've got Ryan Kent on the pitch, because then you can't really leave half the pitch, as St Mirren did. But I thought that the change to bring Lundstrom was told to stick tight by the coaching staff to Stephen Davis after about 15, 16 minutes. And that changed the game, because it meant that St Mirren didn't want to commit another man to the press, and it just meant that the whole rest of their team had to fall back, gave Rangers the space subsequently to play into, and led to both the goals. Yanis Hadji, for me, was the man of the match. I thought he was the only player at 1-0 down who looked good, to put it bluntly, moved the teams forward. And it was his kind of involvement that led to the first goal, and now obviously for the second goal, it's the move of Aribo to be higher on the right, away from the midfield too, and to play beyond them. So that was the impressive thing, Derek. I think St Mirren's XG was 0.06, so it kind of shows you how, firstly, how good their goal was and how abnormal it is it goes in, but also how little they created after Rangers were in front. So I think the pleasing thing, looking back at these last 3 games, Hearts, Brøndby and St Mirren, you've created a lot. The only negative only being one. If you defend one corner against Hearts, it's the perfect week, really, because you look at the chances that the side have created throughout, but also the kind of decreasing chances that the opposition have been allowed. St Mirren to limit them to, I think, one effort within the box in the whole 90 minutes on a tight pitch. It was a difficult pitch. If you were at the game, you'll know it was a really difficult pitch. It was quite bobbly. So I think Stephen Gerrard would be really pleased that the side are starting to regain the level without the ball, and that offers a platform to play well with it.
Yeah, Paul Neal gets in touch. Hi, Paul. He says St Mirren's goal was avoidable. Poor from Tav and Lundstrom. Take nothing away from the finish, though. Yeah, it was a cracking strike. There's no doubt about it. I was watching it on Rangers TV, and Durant said the St Mirren press and the work they were putting in, they would tire, and lo and behold, they did so, and Rangers managed to pick them off. But that start will be a worry, Josh. It's something we've come accustomed to this season, hasn't it, from Rangers, that the slow start and allowing teams to come onto them.
Yeah, and it's a 12 o'clock start, which always feels too early for football. But I think you remember the game against Hamilton last year when Rangers stole a 1-1 draw in Lanarkshire, and on that day Hamilton didn't tire. And I think on these pitches when it's tight, the thing is, although St Mirren were pressing aggressively, what they were also doing is they were limiting the space the game was being played in. So they were just, a lot of what happened was Conor Golson played the ball long, looking to play it off Alfredo Morelos, who didn't really have much option of a run in behind. And St Mirren did tire, but I think looking at the game, the bigger change was bringing Lundstrom back to Davis, because that just meant that they went 2-on-1 on Jamie McGrath, the St Mirren midfielder, who eventually went off injured, and they could always get through the first line of pressure. And that was the difficulty for Rangers before that. They couldn't get through the first line of pressure, which meant the rest of the St Mirren team could squeeze up. So if they ever did make it through, there was no space to play within. And if you look at both the goals, it's the St Mirren line is far deeper than it was in that opening 15 minutes. So I think that's credit to the coaching staff. I think you could have, really said after 20, 30 minutes, this was a wrong team selection because there's no pace in it. St Mirren across the grass looked just far quicker than Rangers. But yeah, as you say, the response was really good, and I think the coaching staff will look back at that game and be pleased with the way that the team was able to adapt in game. Players like Hadji and Aribo, I thought, as they have done recently, changed it. Roofe, I thought, started to grow into the game as well. He started to knit attacks together, and James Tavernier again, as Paul has mentioned there, didn't have a very good involvement for the goal, shall we say? Didn't cover himself in glory. But he responds with 2 excellent crosses for Connor Goldson, both of which could have resulted in goals from corners, and then steps up to really assist the winner. So credit to him as well, because he continued kind of his good form that we've seen over the last couple of games, especially in the second half against Bromby.
Yeah, Martin Sutherland gets in touch. I'm going to start watching 12 o'clock kickoffs at 12:30 from now on. Yeah, that is an issue. I mean, I remember down here when Stuart McCall was the manager at Bradford, and they had a game at 12, and he says that psychologically players don't get up for games at 12 o'clock, and it's true. I mean, it's a hard kickoff time. Even the fans struggle to get up for 12 o'clock kickoffs as well. So it's just one of those. I don't think anybody really enjoys it. You're just at the behest of the TV companies. Number of interesting team selection decisions that Stephen Gerrard made at the weekend, Joshua. One of those being the goalkeeper. We both had John McLaughlin as our goalkeeper at the weekend, but no Alan McGregor in the squad. Robbie McCrory was on the bench. What do we make of that?
Well, Gerrard said after, obviously, on or before one of the two on Rangers TV, kind of explained that he needs to just manage Alan McGregor, who's, of course, played 2 games in 4 days leading up to the trip to Paisley yesterday. I'm starting to prefer John McLaughlin in these games, Derek. I think that he is quicker off his line, which is natural given McGregor is getting a little bit older, and also with the ball at his feet. I just think on that bobbly pitch, and it is a tough game yesterday, you're right, because it's 12 o'clock, so Mirren are bang up for it. It's a tight pitch, just a complete different world from playing an 8 o'clock game at Ibrox. And I think it sometimes takes the players time to acclimatise to that. Yesterday, they weren't given the luxury of 20 minutes at 0-0. Ronan scored, obviously, after about 5 minutes. So I don't know about you, but for me in those games, I sometimes think that John McLaughlin, his speed off the line, but crucially is how comfortable he is with the ball at his feet, starts to feel like a safer option than McGregor in those away ties. I don't know if you agree with me.
Yeah, I quite like McLaughlin in these league games. I agree with you with regards to that. I think McGregor is very much now the European goalkeeper and plays big games, your Celtic games and what have you. But I would have no qualms at playing McLaughlin in an Old Firm encounter or any other games, even European games. I think he's more than able to step in when Alan McGregor isn't, and I think we are slowly starting to see the sort of the handing over of the baton, I think, if you like. Who knows if Alan McGregor wants to stick around next season. But I think in John McLaughlin, I think for me, he is more than able to take over the mantle and be Rangers number one. Mm-hmm. I know he conceded a goal. He'll be disappointed with that yesterday, but his clean sheet record is something else, and I think he's got the mentality to play for a club like Rangers. Paul actually gets back in touch. He says McCrory will eventually be the club's number one. Came in during the COVID break. Didn't put a foot wrong. Surely has to play in the Scottish Cup games like the way Alexander used to do. That may Stephen Gerrard may look at that and may chuck him in there. But I think he'll just continue with McLaughlin, McGregor, unless another COVID outbreak affects the squad. Kemar Roofe looks like he's on penalties from here on in, Joshua.
Quite right. Great, he takes them well, doesn't he? It is a luxury to watch Roofe. No offense to Morelos, but seeing him run up to a penalty in the past is not as, you don't have the confidence you have with Roofe, and Roofe had a bit of a weight as well. But I think probably Defoe evidently yesterday from his being a pundit, he's not really a match day. I don't think you're going to see him in the squad again. Probably maybe here or there. But given the smaller bench in league games, and he's not involved in the European games, I think that's you're kind of you can be sure that you won't see too much of him on the playing field. For me, Kemar Roofe by far is the best finisher. He what you always get with him is a level, even if, and the St Johnstone first half springs to mind, when even if the team aren't creating a lot, he manages to just create chances for himself. He's so quick and alive in the box. And he's made 50 appearances, not 50 starts, but 50 appearances for Rangers, Derek, and he scored 26 goals. And that's a really impressive return. And you've got to remember, that's not him playing as the number 9. Often that's in European games where he's shuttling back and doing a lot of work. Often that's when he's playing off the striker. So I think his consistency and output for Rangers has been really, really top. And the challenge and hope now is he can stay fit and continue to play in these games. Because I think when you play Roofe in these games, I still don't think he's lost a league game. And it's no surprise, because I think he just knits together a lot at the top of the pitch, but also brings so much in and around the box for the team. So yeah, it was really pleasing for him to score. And on obviously Morelos soon after. I mean, the way that the game changed was quite remarkable, because you were looking around after 20-25 minutes and genuinely saying, I think it took 18 minutes for Rangers to have any sort of entry into the Mirren penalty box. Up until that point, you're genuinely thinking, when was the last performance as bad as this in terms of middle to front? And for it to change so dramatically, and for Morelos to be wheeling away in adulation into the away end, was fun, to be honest, because that is what these football is, entertainment after all. And the tactical side of it away, the frustration of the first 15 minutes away, that it was just really enjoyable to see Morelos score his 100th goal for Rangers, and the celebrations told. The player, Roofe said after, the players didn't know it was his 100th goal. They only got told in the dressing room after, but I don't know whether that's true.
No way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure number one, Alfredo Morelos would have told them, but also the celebrations were just fantastic, and it was a great goal as well, wasn't it?
It certainly was. John Dooley gets in touch. Hi, John. For me, Kemar Roofe is a very special player. Definitely one of the best signings of the Steven Gerrard era. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, touching on Morelos, of course, his 100th goal. It was great to see him. And as you said, Joshua, that the scenes with the fans was terrific as well. It just shows you how much it means to him to get 100 goals in 199 games, which is a terrific record. And you just hope that goal, I mean, it looked like it was having an effect on him mentally in recent games. He had hit a barren spell, but you just hope, and Steven Gerrard, I know, mentioned this after the game, that he sets another target and he goes on another sort of goal glut.
Yeah, still wasn't his best performance yesterday, but it was a great little poacher's finish. And the more of those he gets, I think, the better. We've spoken plenty about his evolution as a player and how at times that's taken elements out of his game or taken maybe certain responsibilities out of his game. But it was just a great moment. And I think the thing is with Morelos this season, there has been a lot of frustration at him because of the level he can hit. But that goal yesterday was just a great moment and a fantastic achievement. 100 goals for Rangers is a lot, and his contribution throughout the Steven Gerrard's era. In many, he's been. We always think of leaders as good talkers, Derek, but I think so often leaders produce in the park, and the way that Tavernier would lead in a game, I think would be different sometimes to the way a Goldson would. Morelos' performances throughout Gerrard's tenure, especially those first two seasons, you remember his Europa League campaign 1920, the level that the even throughout the 55, when it wasn't his best individual season, but he scored big goals at big moments. Hibs away, Livingston away, to name just a couple. Celtic Park to keep the unbeaten run going. He's made such a significant impact to the club, and that celebration yesterday was vindication of that, and the supporters letting him know that even if he frustrates, I think no one can stay frustrated at Morelos for much longer than a half of football.
Yeah, well done, Alfredo. Another little point I want to touch on from the game yesterday was Nathan Patterson came on to see the game out. Now, I quite like this. I mean, he had a chance. He was held back by the boy. I can't remember. The Fraser, is it? The boy that holds him back?
Fraser,
yeah. I quite like the idea of this, Joshua. What say you?
I totally, Derek, completely agree with you, because I think often if you have So again, if your first line of aggression and defence is passive up the pitch, it's such a different ball game to when you've got someone like Nathan Patterson who wants to win. And Stephen Gerrard said he was front foot when he came on, and that's spot on. Tav and Patterson are on the pitch for only, I think, the second time this season, but obviously that's from a defensive instead of an offensive point of view. But I just think he's so good one-on-one, whether that be in offensive duels and going past players, but also that his ability to almost jump into tackles and cover space so well. It just means that it's a difference between, look at Ross County away as a prime example, where the lack of pressure on the first ball leads to these curling diagonals around the side of the defence, which are played as if they're a free kick with the defence high up, and that leads to high quality chances. Nathan Patterson stops those type of balls happening yesterday, which stops chances. So it's stopping them at source. Again, you look at the XG numbers, that is in part due to the defence doing the defence's job, but that's also because of the prevention, I think, from the first two lines being the midfield and the attack, to stop attacks at source, to disrupt them, push play sideways. So again, that's the thing that, for me, looking at Rangers from a performance point of view, encourages me the most. The number of pressures you had on Thursday night against Bromby, and the way that Rangers saw out that game yesterday, really professionally. And totally agree with you, Derek. For me, Nathan Patterson now, whenever Rangers are in that position, should always come on, because the last thing you want, I think, if you're trying to launch a ball forward, if you're trying to play through, the last thing you want is someone like Nathan Patterson to be harrying you and pressing you and threatening a turnover as he did yesterday. So yeah, another little interesting point, and another good option that Rangers have off the bench now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Just a reminder to hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and also to subscribe to the Rangers Review website just now. It's just £1 a month for the first 2 months. Cracking value. We've got some great articles on there this morning. One from Joshua about the tactical tweak in game that saw Rangers come from behind to beat St Mirren, and also Gary Kermody's also got a piece up there on Leon Balogun and how he's deserving of a new contract. I think we would all agree with that as well.
Absolutely.
So make sure you subscribe. Yeah, make sure you subscribe now for just £1 a month for the first 2 months. Okay, we'll be back tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest